Inflicted his rigid discipline on every poor bugger what came under his command, so your dad says. Never got a scratch on him, mind you. You know your dad only got a bit of shrapnel in his leg in all the 2 years they was in the trenches. Kept his head down, did your dad, and I was grateful for that. And when he came home, he was his old lovely self. But Harold, remained a sergeant ever since, even if he was back on Civvy Street. If he was strict with poor Nell before the war, and with Hillie too, he's been a bloomin' tyrant ever since. Gert released a bitter, desperate sigh. A tyrant and a bully were good ways to describe her best friend's dad. But as Hillie had grown up, instead of giving in to him like her mum did, anything for a quiet life, she'd started challenging him. The consequences of Harold's resulting temper were often dire. Gert so often wished, as she did now, that Hillie would hold back. But no end of persuasion could change her mind. "And where's your dad?" Gert realised her dear friend was asking now. "Well, he really is running late, so he's got to catch the tram." Gert sighed, knowingly. "I know where you get it from, then." To Gert's relief, Hillie was grinning at her, a teasing light dancing in her eyes. They scuttled along, passing under the railway bridge just as a train rumbled overhead, its wheels clunking slowly and rhythmically along the track. The sound was so familiar that the two girls scarcely noticed it. All they were concerned about was arriving at Price's soap and candle factory on time to clock in. It hardly mattered to them that it was a glorious June morning. Shopkeepers were starting to open up their premises, setting up displays of their goods outside on the pavement, while pedestrians were striding along on their way to work, dodging the tram lines as they crossed the busy street. It was a working day, but hearts were generally lighter because of the pleasant weather. But neither Hillie nor Gert would see much of the sunshine that day, as they would soon be swallowed up into the candle-packing shed at the factory. They'd reached the point where Battersea Park Road became York Road, and still Gert hadn't succeeded in taming her rebellious mop of hair into a bun at the nape of her neck. "Hang on a tick," she panted, stopping to pin up a rogue hank that kept escaping. "Don't I wish my hair was more like yours and not so much like a bleeding bush?" Hillie was tempted to remind Gert that her own hair was a riot of curls that needed pinning down with Kirby grips when she tied it back for work, and that Gert simply needed to allow herself more time to do the same. But Hillie was happy to stop and wait for her to ram her old cloche hat on top of her finally conquered locks, no matter that it was hardly worth it. They were almost there, and though she didn't possess a watch, Hillie knew that they'd arrived on time as they joined the mass of 1,000 or so workers at the factory, who were converging on the extensive 11-acre site along the River Thames. It was as Hillie gazed about at the stream of humanity heading for the factory that she noticed the young man loitering by one of the gates. He was craning his neck this way and that, as if trying to pick out someone from the crowd. Hillie knew who he was. Jimmy Baxter. He worked in deliveries, and because of that, he knew every inch of the factory, and everyone in the factory knew him. Raw materials of all sorts delivered by boat and barge at the factory's wharves were stored in the relevant warehouses all over the site. There was even a light railway system for transporting them, the area was so vast. Jimmy Baxter was part of the team who delivered the materials from the warehouses to the different processing sheds as they were required. A bit of a Jack-the-Lad was Jimmy Baxter, and everyone knew it. Even the girls who went out with him knew it was only likely to last a few months at most. But despite his reputation, he was a solid and dependable worker, and good at his job. As Hillie passed him, she sensed him push himself away from the wall and fall into step beside her. She quickened her pace, but he kept level with her shoulder, and when she stopped abruptly, so did he. "What do you want, Jimmy Baxter?" she demanded, spinning to face him. If she'd expected to throw him off track, she was mistaken. He shrugged casually, but his cheeky chocolate-brown eyes never left hers. "Just wanted to walk into work with the two prettiest girls in the factory," he answered nonchalantly. Before they could escape him, he'd stepped between them and wrapped an arm about each of their waists, pulling them tightly against his sides. Gert wasn't at all sure how to react.